Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Unlike Bally Sports streaming on the DirecTV app, don't even get me started, Ian.
What happened now?
Well, first of all, let me tell the folks we're live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios, and Busy Bee, those are good people. So I want to take them aside from the Bally Sports folks. Let me tell you, this Bally Sports, what a freaking piece of work this company is. I cannot wait until they die. Judge Lopez in Texas, the guy who's overseeing the Bally Sports bankruptcy, kill him. We, the people, want our baseball games. And in the fall, we want our hockey games. I heard Willie wrap up the midday show, and he said, hey, let's see if we convince Jared that Shea Weber should be in the Hall of Fame, which they did not. But more importantly, I don't care about that. I care about Willie. Get your company, get the Bally Sports people off their asses and get them to get a company that has games that we can watch, because the Atlanta Braves right now are playing against the Cardinals, and I want to watch a game, Ian. And I can't watch a game. I can watch everything else on the DirecTV app. I can't watch Braves.
So they're not in cahoots with DirecTV right now either?
I don't know. I mean, they had a deal, supposedly. I mean, that was one of their things.
What
in the
happened?
Bankruptcy court. They were, I don't know, that trash company, I can't wait till they die. I can't wait till they die. I am rooting for Bally Sports. It's funny because this was on the grid, and I was going to say this as a topic. I'm going to get to the Titans in a second. So everybody that's like, get to the Titans. I don't want to hear Jared complain about him trying to watch a baseball game. But Gary Bettman was on with Stephen A. this week, and Stephen A. was talking about how the cable TV ratings, the national TV ratings for the NHL are up, and the playoff ratings are up, and the revenue is up in the NHL, and everything's great in the NHL. And I'm like, half the league can't even watch their games because of freaking Bally Sports. It was a bad deal from the start. The Department of Justice, under the previous president, that administration decided to make Disney divest the RSNs, which screwed all of us. And so we can't watch any of the games. And I don't know why the Department of Justice felt like they had to make them do that. I don't see how that gives Disney some sort of monopoly. I'm not smart enough to figure it out anyways. But again, I know, we talk about things on the show that you guys care about, not things I care about. I know you guys hate Bally Sports as much as I do. And I cannot wait until Bally Sports dies. I saw the Alex Daugherty article last week in the Tennessean when I was out that, the Predators are, according to a source. Again, this is Alex's reporting. This has nothing to do with what I think. But that the Predators are kind of looking to go with the model that Vegas has, where Vegas is on an over-the-air channel. Lord, and Christopher Lopez, the judge in Texas, please put the Predators on an over-the-air channel. Please do that so we can get rid of this gong show of a company that has the games of the teams we care about. Okay, enough complaining. Let's start on the Titans. So, I was reading up ESPN.com, and I was listening. Jeffrey Simmons went on the Rich Eisen show. And Jeffrey Simmons was talking about Caleb Williams, and I didn't necessarily like what Jeffrey Simmons had to say about Caleb Williams, which we'll get into at some point. But he was talking about the fact that it's going to be game one, and Simmons knows everybody's going to be talking about Chicago. And Rich Eisen looked at Simmons, and he said, I will tell you on behalf of the national media, you're right. Everybody will be focused on Chicago. And then I see an ESPN.com article. They graded the off seasons. And like I always do, I go right down to the Titans. I said, okay, I want to see. What do they have for the Titans? What do they say the offseason? Because every time I complain about something the Titans do, I get yelled at by all of you about how great of an offseason this is, how much better this team is than last year's team, even though Derrick Henry and Danico Autry aren't on it anymore, and about how I'm a hater. ESPN gave it a B. Not the A++ that I get told on almost a weekly basis the Titans' offseason was. And there is a humongous dichotomy of thought between what's going on in Nashville and what's going on in regards to the Titans and the offseason they had outside of Nashville. The people in Nashville think this was an incredible offseason. They think Brian Callahan is going to be a great coach. They think Bill Callahan is going to fix the line. They think Mike Vrabel was all the problem with the Titans. They think J.C. Latham was a great pick. They think the free agent spending spree for Snead and Awuzie and Ridley and Cushenberry and Pollard, that it was just unbelievable in terms of upgrading the roster. They think that Tavondre Sweat, in spite of his weight issues, his character issues, and positional issues, right? Is he a nose tackle? Is he not a nose tackle? They're like, no. He'll be able to rush the passer. He's going to be a monster. He won the Outland Trophy. He's the best. That's what the people inside of Nashville think. It's kind of similar to the quarterback. The people in the city think, oh, no, he's going to be a franchise quarterback. People outside of Nashville think he stinks. And the people outside of Nashville, when it comes to the offseason that the Titans had, they are very skeptical. For instance, Seth Walder at ESPN, he's their analytics guy, gave him a B, not the A++ again. Told Mike Sando that Tavondre Sweat, quote, will break your heart. I don't like hearing that. Another executive said after free agency to The Athletic, quote, they went receiver, center, corner, linebacker, and running back, all at $7 million a year or more. Now look at Carolina. This is an executive. Both teams overpaid, but Carolina made all their moves up front, so you could see what their plan was. If you are going to overpay with intention. So that league executive basically said, yeah, Tennessee just went out there and spent a boatload of money on all these players. And that's great for them, but what's the plan? Meanwhile, Carolina's got it figured out. Somebody's going to have to explain that to me, but again, that's that guy's opinion. On the Ridley deal, another executive told The Athletic, quote, there is a walk-away point on some of these deals, and paying high-dollar numbers to a 29-year-old receiver now on his third team in 3 years amounts to bad business. We had Tony Khan on yesterday. His dad owns the Jags. He runs it. And he was basically like, yeah, we loved Calvin Ridley, but at some point it's business. We went with Brian Thomas Jr. So again, inside of Nashville, the offseason, incredible. Outside of Nashville, highly skeptical. So what is the truth? Because again, the national media, NFL executives around the league, analytics, they get it wrong too. Like, let's not kid ourselves. I hear all the time people say, well, I trust a GM and a coach more than I trust you. And I'm like, yes, in general, that's how it should be. But how many times have we seen things like Bill O'Brien trade DeAndre Hopkins and everyone says, boy, that looks like a stupid trade. And then all of a sudden, no, they know. And then obviously, in hindsight, it was an incredibly stupid trade. We don't really know the truth. That's the reality. Neither do they, by the way. The people inside Nashville, they don't know. They believe something because they want to believe it. It's called affirmation. The people outside of here, they don't know either. I have my doubts about the Titans. Again, especially the offseason. Who's playing right tackle? But at the same time, all I want to do is see what the quarterback's made of. Because the one thing that I'll accept, regardless of how I feel about the current administration or the coach or whatever it may be, the one thing I will admit to is I have been wrong on several occasions. Now, I'm willing to put my hand in the air when I said that the A.J. Brown trade, that I understood it. I was able to put my hand in the air and say, hey, when they made the trade and I said, hey, I get it, I understand, and I am for that. I understand sometimes I'm wrong. But where I sit, again, the truth here, when everybody is telling you something and you believe the exact opposite, and it's the subject matter is you, chances are you're probably not the one who's looking at it correctly. Even last year, the national media kept saying the Titans were going to stink. Stink. And I pushed back on that. Henry and Tannehill, and there was no way the line could be worse than it was the year before, and thank God Todd Downing's gone, and they added DeAndre Hopkins, and I believed in Burks and Chig, and the Titans won 6 games. So, again, on one hand, everybody in town thinks that this was an incredible offseason. Everybody out of town, not just the media, not just one NFL executive, but multiple NFL executives, and even the analytics, say not so fast. We don't know who's right. That's why we play the games. But it is fascinating to me to see the polar opposite opinion of the Titans in the offseason. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And there's one thing that I really believe about the Titans, about where they are, and I don't think that you can necessarily, if you're the coach, embrace this in the NFL, but I do think the Titans need to embrace this reality, and I do not think they have done a good job when it comes to the fans. I will explain what that is. We will do it next, plus your phones, 615-737-1025. It is Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
I mean, it's going to take some time, and we're going to work really hard. And you just never know where this can go. But we understand that there needs to be a little patience involved in building a roster. It's going to be focused, methodical approach where we're trying to get first downs before we get touchdowns. But maybe our quarterback develops into one of the great young stars of our league. You just never know what can happen. And at the end of the day, Ray and I talk about this all the time. When you come into an organization, you identify what needs to be fixed. You hire the best before anybody else does, and you develop an obsession with winning immediately. That's what we get paid to do, is to win. So there's no – as we approach this season, we're doing everything we can to assemble a roster to allow us to compete at the highest level.
There you go. That was Chad Brinker at the Senior Bowl talking about, hey, fans got to understand, this is not going to happen overnight. We are going to be methodical with how we build this team. But who knows? Maybe the quarterback's good, and we know we need to win immediately. At the time, I didn't really know what that meant. On one hand, you're telling the fans, be patient. On the other hand, you're saying, hey, we know we got to win immediately. Those things don't necessarily go hand in hand. And now that I've seen what they've done in the offseason, I'm even a little bit more confused, if that makes any sense. And so there's one thing I don't think the Titans have done a very good job of this offseason, and that is setting expectations. Now, if the Titans end up going 10-7 and they make it to the AFC Championship game, then it won't matter if they set expectations well or not. But if they do as everybody else around the country thinks they're going to do, and they finish 6-11, they finish 7-10, or something like that, I think there's going to be a lot of upset fans. Because after all of the money that the Titans spent in the offseason, which again, the Titans spent a lot of money, but it's not like the Titans have the highest payroll in the NFL. The Titans are very middle plus. I don't think fans around here are going to take well to losing. And I don't think the Titans have done a very good job of setting expectations, or if this is a rebuilding year, communicating that to the fans. I don't know. Is this a rebuilding year? For me, I look at this as this is going to be the year where we figure out if the quarterback is good or not. And even then, it's going to take the whole year, and we're going to have to be patient, and it's going to take some time, and it's not going to be just a right-away thing. At least that's what I believe. I have no idea, as far as what they think. That's just me. And I don't know if the Titans haven't come out and said, hey, this is going to be a rebuilding year. This is going to be a year where we figure out what we are. This is going to be a year where we figure out what we're not. The Titans didn't sign Calvin Ridley and come out and say, we got Calvin Ridley because we needed to get Will Levis a wide receiver to see if Will Levis is any good so that he can throw the ball down the field to a guy who can run. And because our offensive line sucks so bad and there are no tackles in free agency, we're going to have to use our picks there. They don't come out and say those things. In fact, I've talked a lot about the sunshine pumping and the toxic positivity, and Brian Callahan goes on bussing with the boys, and Brian Callahan says, I feel very good about us being able to compete with the players we added this offseason. I'm like, okay, well then you better do it because you're telling the fans you think you can win. And if you don't tell the fans you're rebuilding, and you don't tell the fans, hey, this is where we are, it's going to be a process, it's not going to be a Super Bowl season. It's not going to be a deep competition this year. If you don't do that and you don't win, fans get mad. Don't believe me? Ask Mike Vrabel. Because last year there was a lot of talk about should the Titans rebuild or are the Titans rebuilding? They didn't sign anybody in free agency, but they're still paying Ryan Tannehill. They're still paying Derrick Henry. They're still paying, veteran guys that went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. They lost. And then what did they do? They fired the coach. So, again, I don't know what their reason for not saying, hey, there are going to be some rebuilding pains this year, or saying, hey, fans, be patient this season. I don't know why they haven't done that, but they have done a bad job of not communicating that. Some of that might be stadium and PSL driven, right? Buy $70,000 PSL, Titans fans, because we've got a good young quarterback. Do you? I mean, I hope you do. It's like I told Tony Khan yesterday on the show. I hope the Titans can spend $300 million on their quarterback. But if this is a rebuild year, then fans should not expect success overnight, even with L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie, even with Lloyd Cushenberry at center and J.C. Latham at left tackle. And the Titans have not really told that to anybody. Brian Callahan, again, he's talking about competing this year. Chad Brinker's talking about we know we've got to win immediately. Well, if that's the mantra around here, and the NFL is different from other sports. In baseball, in hockey, in basketball, you can go to your fans and say, guys, it's going to be a couple years. You can't do that in the NFL. But you can tell your fans, guys, we're just trying to figure out if the quarterback's good. You can do that. And before you tell me that if they do that, it will ruin Will Levis's confidence, just know that's exactly what the Green Bay Packers said about Jordan Love. And I don't think it ruined his confidence. But the Titans haven't communicated that. And again, I don't know. Maybe it's about the stadium. Maybe it's about PSLs. Maybe it's about trying to sell people on this team, getting them to believe. Maybe some of it is because they know the owner does not take kindly to losing, regardless of the context. She does not take kindly to it, and we saw what happened with Mike Vrabel. If you think this was some kind of power struggle, you don't know Mike Vrabel, the owner said, only to find out a year later in the Athletic article that Vrabel went to the owner and said, I'd like to be GM, make him assistant GM. So maybe they're saying, hey, we got to convince everybody this is going to be a good team, and then we've got to be a good team because even though it's going to take some time to figure out if the quarterback's good, and then if the quarterback's good, what do we need to do off of that? The owner's not going to give us time because that's not how the owner operates around here. That might be the reason, too. I just know this. When you make the kind of changes the Titans made, it takes at a minimum 6 weeks. And I think it's more likely to be 8 before we'll really have a grasp of how those changes will take hold. It takes time. Learning a new system, working with new receivers, new linemen, new center, new quarterback. That stuff takes time. That's why when I went over the receivers the other day and I said, here's who I think is going to lead the team in receptions, they can pay Calvin Ridley $1 gazillion. I still think it's going to be DeAndre because Will Levis has the best chemistry and has the experience with DeAndre. That's why I still think Nick Westbrook-Akine is going to play a role in this offense, even though he didn't get the invite to Cabo, because he spent time with Will Levis. But it's going to take time. And I just don't think the Titans have done a good job at all of communicating that to their fans. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Dre is going to kick us off today. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Dre, go ahead.
Yeah, once again, we disagree on so many things, man. You have a few valid points, but, the sky's falling again with Jared. So we'll
when did I say that?
See what happens. Anyway, I mean, I have a deeper point. You know what, Jared, man, I think I'm kind of becoming a little bit of you listening to you. I woke up this morning and realized that I'm not all the way in on the coaching staff. And this is the reason why. Now, we're going to disagree with this here, me and you. I believe we'll disagree. But This is the reason why. Traylon Burks, they're going to take Traylon Burks and put him on the special teams squad. Now, granted, this young man, injuries have plagued this young man for both seasons he's been in the league. Injuries. It's not that the boy don't have heart or talent or skill.
Well, he dropped the football a lot last year, Dre.
Well, yeah, of course. And I mean, everybody everybody drops, but it wasn't that.
No.
It wasn't
He and
that
Chig,
egregious.
it was
Come on.
excessive. Yes,
But
it was.
hold on, one
Do
more
you remember
point,
the first play of the Texan game when Levis
One
threw
more
the ball 70 yards and it hit him square in the hands and he dropped it?
Ah, man, come on.
He dropped a
Come
third
on.
down the first game against the Saints.
Hey, but
He
hold
dropped
on.
three
You'll
against the
love this one
Browns.
Here, Jared, you'll love this one here. Jared, you're going to love this. Okay, so here we are. We're all in on old receivers in Nashville. We're all in. And we're going to take the only really good receiver and put him out there on at special teams. I don't agree with that. And
You don't think Ridley's good?
That's a bonehead decision. All right, Jerry, I'm gonna hang up and listen.
Trey, thank you for the call. I mean, I don't think Traylon Burks has done enough for us to even think that he's good. I mean, and at some point when it comes to potential, Burks has enormous talent. I mean, an unbelievable amount of talent, unbelievable amount of potential, but at some point that has to be realized. You know, the NFL, you don't get 8 years to figure it out. I mean, even in the NHL, the Predators have some of these guys that were high picks that are down at Milwaukee, or they're getting a little playing time here, there, and every time they come up, we're always told, oh, no, give him a chance. He's still 23. I'm like, yeah, and he should be good by now. That's how pro sports works. That's how the league works. You notice the great players, it's never like, you know, Ronald Acuna wasn't ready. No, he was ready at like 20 years old. Burks has an inordinate amount of talent, but he can't stay healthy. He can't catch the ball, and he's been passed up by guys they've signed. I mean, I wouldn't say that Burks is the only good receiver they have. I think Hopkins, Ridley, and Boyd are good. And as far as, you know, these are all old guys, I agree. But I think at some point, you have to get the young quarterback somebody that he can throw the ball to so that you can develop the young quarterback. And then once the young quarterback is developed, then you can add guys via the draft, and maybe he makes a average receiver better. That's just my opinion on it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Speaking of the receiver position, and I do want to get to your phones here on the program, there was something that was said yesterday that I found to be fascinating. And I see both sides of the argument. We'll get to that. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in today. Again, that is 615-737-1025. Do not miss out on Nashville's best deal for Deacon's New South in downtown Nashville, where Southern service meets exceptional service. Their dry-aged steaks and chef-inspired dishes are complemented by inventive sides and desserts featuring locally sourced produce. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 while supplies last.